You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
When it comes to ensuring your company has top-notch security practices, things can get complicated fast. Vanta automates compliance for SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and more, saving you time and money. With Vanta, you can streamline security reviews by automating questionnaires and demonstrating your security posture with a customer-facing trust center. Over 7,000 global companies like Atlassian, Flow Health, and Quora use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. Our listeners can claim a special offer of $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/cyber. That's VANTA.com/cyber for $1,000 off Vanta. A global Microsoft outage takes down Outlook and Minecraft. The U.S. Senate passes the Kids Online Safety and Privacy Act. Lame duck domain names are targets for takeovers. A geo-server vulnerability exposes thousands to remote code execution. China proposes a national internet ID. Email attacks surged dramatically in 2024. Columbus, Ohio thwarts a ransomware attack. When it comes to invading your privacy, the Paris 2024 Olympics app goes for the gold. Our guest is Rakesh Nair, Senior Vice President of Engineering and Product at Devo, discussing the issues that security teams face when dealing with data control and data orchestration. And was it really Windows 3.1 that saved Southwest Airlines? It's Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thank you for joining us here today. It is great, as always, to have you with us. Microsoft experienced a global outage impacting services like Outlook and Minecraft, lasting nearly 10 hours. The company attributed the issue to a cyber attack compounded by a defense implementation error. This incident follows a similar outage 2 weeks prior, caused by a flawed update from CrowdStrike, which affected 8.5 million systems. This DDoS attack overwhelmed Microsoft's defenses, amplifying the outage's impact. Services like Azure, Microsoft 365, Intune, and Entra were affected, along with external services relying on Microsoft's platforms. Microsoft issued an apology, implemented a fix, and continues monitoring to ensure recovery. The outage occurred just before Microsoft's financial update, revealing slower growth in its Azure cloud services, leading to a 2.7% drop in after-hours trading. Despite this, the company reported a 21% rise in intelligent cloud revenue and a 15% overall revenue increase, totaling $64.7 billion. Additionally, Microsoft has warned of ransomware gangs exploiting a VMware ESXi authentication bypass vulnerability. Discovered by Microsoft researchers and fixed in a June 25th update, the flaw allows attackers to create an ESX admins group with full administrative privileges on the ESXi hypervisor. Exploitation requires high privileges and user interaction, but leads to full admin access, data theft, lateral network movement, and encryption of the hypervisor's file system. Ransomware groups like Storm 0506, Storm 1175, Octo Tempest, and Manatee Tempest have exploited this flaw, deploying Akira and Black Basta ransomware. These attacks have targeted ESXi hypervisors, causing significant outages and disrupting business operations. Microsoft noted the doubling of such incidents in the past 3 years. With a 91-3 vote, the U.S. Senate passed a bill aimed at protecting children from harmful online content. The Kids Online Safety and Privacy Act, COPSA, promoted by parents of children harmed by online bullying, mandates that tech companies take steps to safeguard minors. This includes requiring platforms to default to the safest settings and exercise a duty of care. The House has not yet acted on the bill, but strong Senate support may prompt action. President Biden has urged the House to pass the legislation quickly. The bill would be the first major tech regulation in years, potentially paving the way for future privacy and AI laws. It requires companies to prevent harm from bullying, violence, and other dangers, and to offer minors protections like disabling addictive features and opting out of personalized recommendations. While some tech companies support the bill, others, like Meta platforms, prefer different approaches. Critics, including the ACLU, warn of potential censorship and privacy risks. Researchers from Infoblox have revealed that over 1 million domain names, including those registered by major companies, are vulnerable to takeover due to authentication weaknesses in several web hosting providers and domain registrars. According to Krebs on Security, this issue involves so-called lame DNS records, where authoritative name servers lack sufficient domain information, making these domains easy targets for cybercriminals. Attackers can exploit these weaknesses to hijack domains, potentially using them for phishing, spreading malware, or impersonating brands. Infoblox and Eclipsium researchers found that some compromised domains, originally registered by brand protection firms, were hijacked due to misconfigured DNS settings. This problem persists despite previous exposure, with domain takeover facilitated by weak or non-existent verification processes. Some providers like DigitalOcean and Hostinger are working on solutions, but broader cooperation and improved practices are necessary to mitigate these vulnerabilities and protect domain registrants and Internet users. A critical vulnerability in GeoServer, an open-source Java-based software server, exposes thousands of servers to remote code execution. Hackers can exploit this by sending malicious post requests, gaining full control over affected servers. Approximately 6,600 GeoServer instances are at risk, impacting sectors like urban planning and emergency response. GeoServer has released patches and recommends users update immediately. In China, anonymity online is already challenging due to mandatory phone number verification tied to personal IDs. Now, the Chinese government proposes a national Internet ID to simplify verification and enhance privacy, aiming to prevent fraud and limit personal data collection by companies. This proposal by the Ministry of Public Security and Cyberspace Administration would be voluntary for websites and apps and open for public comment through the end of August. While some support reduced data collection by multiple apps, critics fear increased government control and surveillance. Legal scholars warn of excessive monitoring, likening the system to the COVID-19 Health Code app. Concerns include potential harm and fear of using the Internet. This proposal has sparked significant online debate, highlighting the tension between privacy protection and social control. Email attacks and ransomware incidents have surged dramatically in 2024, with a 293% rise in email attacks and a 47% increase targeting organizations, according to research published by Acronis. Ransomware remains a critical threat, particularly to SMBs in government and healthcare, with a 32% rise in detections from the fourth quarter of 2023 to the first quarter of 2024. Lockbit, Blackbasta, and Play are major culprits. Experts advise adopting a zero-trust model, network segmentation, and AI-driven threat detection. Cybercriminals are increasingly using AI for social engineering and automation attacks, making traditional defenses less effective. Acronis recommends enhancing security measures and continuous monitoring to counter these evolving threats. City officials in Columbus, Ohio say they thwarted an overseas ransomware attack shutting down much of the city's technology for 10 days to prevent data encryption. Mayor Andrew Ginther revealed that the attack involved a sophisticated threat actor and resulted in potential data theft. The city's Department of Technology, with the FBI and Homeland Security, recommended severing affected systems from the Internet, mitigating the risk. The cyber outage affected email, website updates, and emergency dispatch systems. Columbus is restoring services and has strengthened its tech defenses to prevent future attacks. The official Paris 2024 Olympics app is raising significant privacy concerns due to its invasive data collection practices. While marketed as a personal companion for the Games, providing schedules, breaking news, medal results, and event insights, the app's capabilities extend far beyond these functions. It tracks users extensively, collecting web browsing history and sharing it with advertisers and big tech companies. Downloaded over 10 million times, the app requires multiple dangerous permissions, granting it access to deeply personal data on Android devices. The International Olympic Committee openly acknowledges collecting personal data, building user profiles, and sharing information with advertisers, including major companies like Facebook, Google, and Apple. This extensive data collection is justified by the IOC as necessary for providing the best possible experience for users. Permissions requested by the Paris 2024 Olympics app include access to precise location, camera, audio, media files, and high sampling rate sensors. These permissions can track detailed user activity and movements, painting a comprehensive picture of the user. The app's privacy policy outlines extensive use cases for collecting data, including fan analysis, marketing activities, user profiling, and targeted advertising. Security researchers and privacy advocates emphasize the need for users to remain vigilant about the permissions they grant and to revoke unnecessary ones. The widespread use of these invasive apps, combined with state-sponsored threat actors targeting the Olympics, increases the risk of unauthorized access, identity theft, data breaches, and other cyber threats. Users are urged to prioritize their privacy and be cautious about the data they share with apps, especially during high-profile events like the Olympics. Coming up after the break, my conversation with Rakesh Nair, Senior Vice President of Engineering and Product at Devo. We're discussing the issues that security teams face when dealing with data control and data orchestration. Stay with us. And now, a word from our sponsor, KnowBe4. Where would InfoSec professionals be without users making security mistakes? Working less than 60 hours per week, maybe. Actually having a weekend every so often. While user behavior can be a challenge, they can also be an InfoSec professional's greatest asset once properly equipped. Users want to do the right thing, but often lack the knowledge to do so. That's one of the reasons KnowBe4 developed Security Coach, a real-time security coaching tool that takes alerts from your existing security stack and sends immediate coaching to users who've taken risky actions. Existing security tools will likely block a user from visiting a high-risk website, for example, but the user might not understand why. Security Coach analyzes these alerts and provides users with relevant security tips via email or Slack, coaching them on why the action they just took was risky. Help users learn from their mistakes and strengthen your organization's security culture with Security Coach. Learn more at knowbe4.com/securitycoach. That's knowbe4.com/securitycoach. And we thank KnowBe4 for sponsoring our show. The IT world used to be simpler. You only had to secure and manage environments that you controlled. Then came new technologies and new ways to work. Now, employees, apps, and networks are everywhere. This means poor visibility, security gaps, and added risk. That's why Cloudflare created the first ever connectivity cloud. Visit cloudflare.com to protect your business everywhere you do business. Rakesh Nair is Senior Vice President of Engineering and Product at Devo. I recently caught up with him for insights on the issues that security teams face when dealing with data control and data orchestration.
A few things that are happening from a trend perspective. One is the data explosion side of things, where there's enormous amount of data that companies are collecting, mostly because they're all moving to data-driven decision making. The second one is around data convergence, where I believe that some clients are looking at putting all of the data into one central location and then having multiple applications or customers of this consume data from the same location across, whether it's security, whether it's IT operations, or whether even if it's business intelligence. They all want to kind of take advantage of these two trends. So as we are pulling in enormous amount of data and as all this data is converging into one place, not all data are the same. They don't have the equal value. So there is definitely a notion of what should be in hot storage, what should be in warm storage, and what can be kept in cold storage. So the ability to control that aspect of what is the cost or TCO associated with each data source, as well as filtering out some noisy messages or key value pairs from certain logs to be able to manage the overall cost is another trend that we're seeing. So primarily around filtering and routing data to different places as they need be.
Is it fair to say that some of these folks find themselves with just too much data?
Absolutely. I think one of the predictions that I've seen from Gartner lately is that in the next 6 or 7 years, the amount of data each of these enterprises are collecting is going to increase by 23-fold. So that's a lot of data coming into that has to be managed, governed, and then analyzed to seek intelligence out of some of this data.
What about the tools themselves? I mean, the things that folks use to kind of make order out of this data. My understanding is that for many organizations, the number of tools it kind of keeps growing and growing.
Yeah, I think the data convergence aspect of the one aspect that I mentioned is revolving primarily around this notion of bringing all of the data into one place and then be able to generate or create vertical applications. There's a lot of companies doing their own ML data science teams within those companies. So there is a notion of let the data sit in one place, but have vertical applications be able to take advantage of it. Where I see the third trend that I see is around technology convergence is within this vertical. So for instance, if we take the security or security operations center workflows, then I see a lot of convergence starting to happen. If you look at generally across the same market, to see some of the companies that are being merged or being acquired, there is this whole push for bringing kind of technology convergence to each of those vertical labs that can perform at a much better, much more automated, in a much more intelligent way within that vertical.
What about the people themselves? The folks who are staffing these SOCs are they? I mean, is it the age-old story of there not being enough people, of them being overworked and under-provisioned?
It still continues to be true. I think for a security analyst to be really useful for a company, they have to be within the company for 2-3 years, and there's a lot of turnover in the industry around security analysts, mostly because there is still a lot of shortage for such crucial talent across the industry.
Can we talk about some of the potential solutions here? I mean, what do you and your colleagues there at Devo, what do you consider to be some of the ways to solve these issues?
I think again, going back to my trends definition around data explosion, for instance, orchestration, the ability to filter out and manage the different data sources differently, and bringing that control to the enterprises themselves is very crucial. Around data convergence side, I think I'll focus more on the openness of the system, the ability to pull data, applying various filters to understand it, or if you need to do some analytics, being able to query the data set and bring the specific data out to do more analytics on top of it. So kind of a more open data analytics platform is much more needed. And on the third front around technology convergence, when you look at primarily from a security operations standpoint of view, we've been seeing the trends of UEBA being consumed into a SIM platform, and we can see that SOAR being consumed into the SIM platform. So one of the things we are trying to do is kind of build that unified workflow that not only brings some of these technologies together, but they have a lot of automation and AI capabilities infused into it so that the operations or the security operations software of the system is telling the customer what is happening from a narrative, a story perspective, instead of generating vast amount of alerts, and the security operations teams have to go and analyze all of these alerts back to back.
Can you give us an example of how automation comes into play here? I mean, that strikes me as being a real potential time saver.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we're launching as part of Black Hat is around kind of an umbrella term called ThreatLink, which is internally a playbook running, trying to look at these alerts, find entity relationship between these alerts, group them together when needed, invoke additional AI to do deeper investigation, and bring back all of this information into a case where even if the security analyst is not that senior, he still sees the entire context of what was happening revolving around that alert. So that is one of the examples. The most prototypical examples we see are people get tired of phishing. I think around 70% of the SOC time is still spent on phishing attacks. So taking some of those phishing attacks, understanding what the URL is, what the email location is, etc., and to be able to block whether the IP address or the domain, etc., that entire workflow can be automated as a preliminary step, and then we can do deeper analysis on top of it. So some of those things we could have systems handle. Actually, the systems are trying to take over those kind of the groundwork of doing the same thing over and over again, as opposed to forcing security analysts to do that.
You and your colleagues are going to be attending the Black Hat conference this year, coming up in early August here. Should folks stop by to say hello and check out more about your offerings there, yes?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. I think we have some really good demos that we have set up for Black Hat, as well as some beautiful integrations that we have done from a security operations workflow, from data orchestration perspective, as well as kind of opening up that data analytics platform perspective.
That's Rakesh Nair from Devo. We'll have a link to Devo's research in our show notes. Most of our listeners who deal with legacy privileged access management products know they tend to be expensive, difficult to deploy, and hard to use. Keeper Security is the answer. Keeper's Zero Trust solution delivers password, secrets, and connection management in one easy-to-use platform. It's fast to deploy, agentless, clientless, and has no implementation fees. Plus, Keeper is FedRAMP authorized. That's why we trust Keeper to prevent breaches and gain full control over privileged users. Visit keeper.io/cyberwire to schedule a quick demo. That's keeper.io/cyberwire. And thanks to Keeper Security for supporting our podcast. And finally, our fact-checking desk insisted we check out the story of one man's journey to debunk a popular rumor that had come to be accepted as fact. Tom Halverda, managing editor at OS News, was scrolling through the latest tech news when a particular story caught his eye. The headline boldly claimed that Southwest Airlines had escaped the recent CrowdStrike event because they were still using Windows 3.1. The story fit perfectly with the current tech narrative, suggesting that sometimes older technology is more reliable. But something about it seemed off to Tom. He delved into the details. The story was widely reported by reputable news outlets and shared extensively on social media. But Tom's instincts told him to question its veracity. He began by tracing the claim to its origins, a tweet from Artem Rusakovsky stating, "The reason Southwest is not affected is because they still run on Windows 3.1. The tweet, though widely referenced, provided no sources or additional information. Digging deeper, Tom found a follow-up tweet from Rusakovsky admitting it was a troll, stating, "To be clear, I was trolling last night, but it turned out to be true. Some Southwest systems apparently do run Windows 3.1, LOL." However, this claim was also unsupported by evidence. Tom continued his investigation, tracing the origins further. His search led him to an article by the Dallas Morning News discussing Southwest scheduling system issues around Christmas. The article mentioned that Southwest uses internally built systems like SkySolver and Crew Web Access, which, quote, look historic like they were designed on Windows 95. These paragraphs had been misinterpreted to suggest that Southwest was still using outdated operating systems. Tom realized the misunderstanding had snowballed. The article didn't say Southwest systems ran on Windows 3.1 or 95, merely that they appeared outdated. Additionally, these systems are available as mobile apps, indicated they were not based on decades-old technology. Determined to set the record straight, Tom documented his findings. He highlighted how a single unsourced tweet had sparked widespread misinformation, compounded by hasty and inaccurate reporting. His fact-checking revealed that, contrary to the viral story, Southwest Airlines systems are not running on ancient operating systems. Tom's investigation underscored a critical issue in online journalism. Reputable sites had failed to perform even basic fact-checking. His thorough yet straightforward fact-checking process had debunked a widely believed myth in minutes. As he published his findings, Tom hoped his efforts would encourage others to question sensational stories and prioritize accuracy over clicks. In the end, Tom Halverda's dedication to truth illuminated the pitfalls of modern media and the importance of diligent journalism, reminding readers that sometimes the truth is just a few clicks away. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K CyberWire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Ivan. Our executive editor is Brandon Karp. Simone Petrella is our president. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. And I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. This September 18th and 19th in Denver, a tight community of leading experts is gathering to tackle the toughest cybersecurity challenges we face. It's happening at MWise, the unique conference built by practitioners for practitioners. Brought to you by Mandiant, now part of Google Cloud, MWise features one-to-one access with industry experts and fresh insights into the topics that matter most, right now, to frontline practitioners. Register early and save at mwise.io/cyberwire. That's mwise.io/cyberwire.